I think my roommate might be a monster, but at least she pays her bills on time. I saw a strange-looking woman staring at me through the kitchen window. I blinked and her face was gone, and I started to doubt my senses again. After the first day and the weirdness in the basement, the normal day-to-day was good. But the good times wouldn't last. The worst news I could receive was just about to happen. I received a call informing me I was being laid off from my job. I had to scramble to find work, and I was barely able to pay my exceedingly high mortgage. I could barely afford food, and if something went wrong or needed repair, I would never be able to afford the fix. I realized I would need a roommate or something to help split the costs and make it more affordable until I could get another decent paying job. That was the first time I met Lania. Before I could even write up a request to advertise, I got a knock at my door. It was a tall, pale-skinned young woman with black hair and very serious eyes. The pupils seemed very narrow, almost akin to a cat or snake. She gave an air of authority and threat, but also allure. She stared at me for a moment, and I started to feel uneasy before she finally spoke. "I'm here for the room," she said very bluntly, almost as if it was a demand rather than a request. I hadn't even advertised it yet. How did this lady know I needed a roommate? "Well, yes, but how did you know already?" I asked, completely dumbfounded. She looked at me and then behind me into the house and produced an envelope with $3,000 in it. Holy smokes, lady, I was going to ask for references, but this will do. That's more than what I was going to charge for the rent. A glimmer of a smile appeared on the woman's face, and she spoke. "Think of it as a security deposit. I hate to say it, but at the time I was ignoring the many red flags and just focusing on how a good-looking, albeit kind of intense girl wanted to pay so much up front to live with me. This plus my savings meant I had enough to pay the mortgage and then some. I was so happy I failed to see a lot of things and ask a lot of questions that should have been asked." Lania moved in shockingly fast and made herself at home. We didn't see too much of each other because she worked a graveyard shift as a nurse or something, she had said. I figured it must have been since I saw her in the early morning in blood-covered scrubs and figured it might be from the or something. She was a model roommate though, with no issues, very tidy, and always paid her portion of the bills not only on time but normally early. Weirdly, it was always in cash, never with a check or something digital. But maybe she had an old heart and preferred paper currency. The only thing I did notice was she always kept dishes and silverware in her room, and sometimes it left very little in the kitchen when I needed some. When I reminded her, she would bring it back. One time when I was loading the dishwasher, I saw a few plates covered in a reddish sticky color that almost looked like blood. She must like rare steaks, I figured. At this point, I had secured a part-time retail job which was enough to pay a quarter of the mortgage and hardly any food. Surprisingly, Lania was happy to pay for the rest and the utilities to boot. I didn't know how or why she was willing to help so much, but I didn't want to look a gift horse in the mouth. One night, I arrived home and found the door unlocked, and it seemed like Lania was home. At least her car was there. I walked inside and heard something that sounded like muffled crying and then a shrill scream. I raced to her room and barged in. I was not prepared for what I saw. I found her splayed out on her bed. She was naked and her face was covered with red paint or maybe blood. She was entwined with what looked like a large type of snake or python, and it was writhing across her body. I was stunned by the sight. I didn't even realize how my intrusion might be perceived until she screamed again and then turned to me as I entered, and she fixed her gaze on me, and I realized I made a mistake. I didn't know what was going on, but I took a step back and looked away as I retreated, realizing my eyes had been lingering on her bare chest. My cheeks reddened and I quickly blurted out an apologetic. "Oh God, I am sorry, Lania. I didn't know what was going on and I thought you were in trouble." Out of the corner of my eyes, I thought I saw her teeth take on an oddly pointed quality and her pupils shifted like they had the day I met her. Her initial surprise and anger calmed somewhat, and despite the embarrassing situation I walked into, she made no effort to cover herself and simply said, "Please leave, now." I didn't need to be told twice. When I left, I realized I needed to grab the groceries I had bought and bring them inside. I went out to the garage again, and near the laundry room, I saw what looked like an outfit for a delivery driver. It was torn up pretty badly. There was also a wallet near the washing machine that did not look like it belonged to Lania. I wondered if she had had someone over. I saw nearby a name tag that read Ted. Maybe she was dating someone named Ted. I didn't think much of it until the following week when I started to see missing person posters up around the neighborhood inquiring about any information regarding a Theodore Wilkes who had been declared missing. I thought of Lania and the weird behavior and the name Ted short for Theodore. The implication was disturbing, but there are a lot of Teds, I figured. I also tried to put out of my mind the fact that he was a delivery driver. Tomorrow, part 2. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and follow my other socials.